Welcome back, boys and girls. In this video, I'm going to attempt to explain how you can become better at ASP.NET Core. This is for those people who generally want a better sense of awareness around the framework and be able to figure out what to do or how to do things within the framework without the availability of the documentation. All right, so no tutorials, no information available to you. What do you do? How do you find out how to effectively bend the framework to your will? So this is what the video is going to be about. Don't forget, if you're enjoying it, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to check out the description. With that, let's go ahead and get started. And before we dive into the code or anything like that, I've made a video not too long ago, which is a introduction to ASP.NET Core for beginners, which lays out the two foundational building blocks of ASP.NET Core: middleware and dependency injection. What I'm going to be explaining in this video is going to highly depend on dependency injection, as that is the tool that is used to compose all of the services. If you understand the strategy design pattern, you effectively have a function that does something. You want to replace what happens inside of that function or inside of some kind of module. You supply a module behind an interface. So you let that module accept an interface, and then you can substitute different strategies or different implementations of that interface, effectively changing what that function or module does wherever you need it. So, because again, dependency injection is about the composition of things, you have at each place of composition a chance to get in between that place and substitute, tweak, and or override functionality. All right, so that is going to be the focus of this video. We are going to start with a sample MVC application. This is one of the default templates. Here are all the service registrations, and then we have the home controller. I've added a very simple method over here, which is just great, with a post and a payload, and the payload object is over here. Okay, I then also have an additional Scratch file over here, which is just going to post something to this endpoint once the service is running. All right, so what am I trying to do in this video? What am I going to be demonstrating, and for what purposes? So looking at this payload, this is part of model binding. We're effectively going to try to figure out or ask ourselves, how does model binding work in ASP.NET Core? How do I figure out? You can go Google, you maybe get Microsoft documentation, maybe you will get a video, and everybody's explaining, if you put from body and you put from form, you get model binding. And you're like, man, I already know all that stuff. I want to know under the hood stuff. I want to know the deep stuff. Like what, the professionals at Microsoft who have created this framework have written code that does all of this magical stuff. I want to know, how does that work? So that is what we're going to explore. If we go into Program CS, again, we understand that we register services, which then perform work in the middleware in order to process the request. Add controllers and views registers a bunch of services, and this is where the tools that you use matter quite a bit, where with writer, the decompilation of services, and actually I can place breakpoints in here to see when this code executes. Sometimes the debugger is wonky depending on what operating system you're using as well, but nevertheless, here I can see the services. I'm adding controllers with views core, and then let me hide the solution over here. I can see more extensions, add controller core services, views, Razor View Engine, add cache tag helper. Let me ask myself, where would the model binding logic for a controller live? Is it views or Razor View Engines? No. How about controller core? That is where I'm gonna go. Again, MVC core, API Explorer, add authorization, add course, all of this stuff that just gets added on here that you might have thought, I never knew that all of this stuff adds all of these services. So anyway, moving on to add MVC core. Somewhere over here, as you're reading through stuff, you want to find out all of the classes, all of the functionality that is used to service the request, the stuff that is going to say, Here are your controllers, here are the parameters and the actions. This is how we're going to process the incoming request and assign all of these parameters to the controller. Eventually, looking through these methods, you're going to see add MVC core services. And here you can start reading through this. There's tons and tons of services, but maybe you will stumble on iModel Binder Factory. All right. So this interface creates an iModel binder. So this is something that is going to process a model binding context, and it's going to be a task. So, you can maybe start piecing the puzzle pieces together. This has to do something with model binding. Let's go ahead, open it up. And again, because we understand dependency injection and that the stuff is going to get injected into this service. So a singleton, the services that get injected into here are metadata provider, MVC options, service provider, and then you can look through this class and see how does this get used, how does this get used, how does this get used? Can I supply my own implementation behind this interface or behind this interface or behind this interface in order to perhaps get in the middle of this function over here or this function over here to add just a little bit more functionality which I need for my application. Let's have a look at this. As we've seen, create binder is the function which is going to be executed. This may be a little bit hard to look at, but we try to get a iModel binder. We first try to get the cached binder, and if we don't succeed, in the end we will return bind core uncached. So create binder core uncached, whatever this does. Reading through this slowly, you will understand that, okay, I'm gonna have these providers which are called iModel binder providers, which you are going to iterate through and effectively say, try to get me a binder. If I manage to find a binder, use that binder. So following this logic, you can confidently say, all right, I know that this is the thing that is going to produce model binders for a specific action. And the interesting thing here is that you can actually verify this. So create binder. Let's go ahead and put a breakpoint over here. I'm going to debug this application. Once the application is running, let's open the Scratch file, and I'm not working with too much real estate here. We will see that create binder is going to run first. And then if I go ahead and run it again, the second time we don't hit the breakpoint. So now you're aware that whatever the framework does on the first request is going to be slower because it is setting up that binder, it's figuring out how it's going to do model binding for that specific action, and then that binder is going to be cached. All right, so now that we know this, we can also perhaps try to figure out what kind of binder did it just produce. This is where if I would try to show you, I wouldn't succeed because in that decompiled code, the debugger doesn't work too well, but we can look at other things. Again, in the model binder factory, we have figured out that we're passing this, or we have these providers. And the providers over here are getting set from the options value model binder providers. The iOptions MVC options, guess where they're being added if we come back to program CS, will be the options right over here. So if it's not a service that you can override, by looking at the internal implementation of the framework, you can figure out how to better to actually use these options which are configuring the underlying services. So now I know that if I go to the options and I go to model binder providers, I can go ahead and try to add my own model binder provider. But not only that, I'm going to say, look, I'm going to go ahead and insert my model binder provider right at the beginning. I want it to run first. All right. I understand that the order here actually matters. And a big note here is that I'm getting all of this information without looking at the documentation. I didn't have to look at any of the tutorials. I'm decompiling code. I'm reading the source code, and this is like answering my own questions and the curiosity that I had about the framework. Okay. So this is a collection of what? Let's take a look. iModel binder provider. Let's copy this class. We're going to create a public class, my binder provider. Let's implement this interface. And then, implement it like this. We then need an iModel binder. Let's create another class, This is going to be my model binder, and again we implement model binder. I know I'm like right below, right there, but anyway, let's go ahead and return my new where's it, my model binder right there. I'm gonna put a breakpoint over here to see when we hit this, and then for the bind model async, you can have a look at this. And all right, binding context, I don't actually know how to work with this. Where can I find an example? Oh, well, again, this is going to go back to your tools that you have available to you and how to use them. So for example, if I have the iModel Binder interface that comes from Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC model binding, you can basically take this type, Google it, and also append GitHub to your search, and hopefully Google will actually find the type on GitHub, and you can see in the vicinity of this type. So are there any local files that are implementing this interface? However, if you have something like Writer, you can literally take a look. Okay, I want to see some of the using, or sorry, not where it's being used, but what is using it. So here are all the model binders that are available to you that are within the framework. This is not the code that you have written, right? So let's grab something that looks familiar. Body model binder. How much more simpler you can get than this? A HTTP context.body, which you can read the stream of and just deserialize as JSON, right? So that's kind of the thing that you can expect it to do. The point here is I found a place where I want to, change the logic, and now again I'm using the internal implementation to get an idea of how do I actually want to implement this service myself, or how do I fulfill this contract. So on the body model binder provider, it is going to create an iModel binder, and here we have the body model binder. So I could have looked for implementations of the let's say where's the interface implementation is going to be on the class of the iModel binder, but I didn't need to, okay? And then scrolling further down, here we have the bind model async function, which is the method on the iModel binder, which is going to bind the model. On the binding context, we find the HTTP context, and then we do some things with the HTTP context, effectively taking 2-3 minutes to read to try to figure out what is happening here. You're going to see that, oh yeah, by the end of this, somewhere over here, I either add stuff to the model state, or I will have to set the binding context result, which is, and that's the way that I assign the result of the binding operation that is performed. So bind model async, the result is effectively a state change. So armed with all of this information, we can go to the binding context, we can go to the result, and we can assign a model binding result. Or, I mean, again, if we take a look at this, we're going to see that there's a success and failed functions, and this pattern is actually repeated in a couple of places in the ASP.NET Core framework. So if you have been exploring it for a bit, you're not going to be surprised to find functions like this and such behavior that you would need to set a result on this context object. So rather than newing this up, we want to just go ahead and say success. And what I'm going to do is say, look, I want to supply payload of number, and let's just put 11 over here, just as a proof of concept that, yeah, I am intercepting the process. I want to go to my home controller and actually verify that, yeah, this is being set correctly. So rerunning the debugger, I have not actually inserted my binder provider at position 0. Let's go ahead, rerun this. Again, we'll need a task completed over here. Actually start the debugger. And while this is happening, let's go ahead and bring up the Scratch HTTP. I'm going to go ahead and run the code, and here we see the binder is going to be created. Again, this is where I get these kind of errors where if I try to step over, it just goes ahead and shoots to the next breakpoint. Here we can see my model binder is being created and the home controller is being instantiated, and now the model binder is doing its work by creating this payload and assigning it as the result of the model binding. All right. Then we press OK, we take a look at the payload, and hopefully no surprise, 11 is set over there. By the end of this exercise, I have effectively started with how does model binding work, and because I have a solid foundation of, okay, there is middleware, requests are being processed in order by every middleware piece. Let me take a look at the middleware pieces. It is, we have exception handler, use HSTS, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. What is the actual thing that is processing requests? It is this MVC framework, which is this thing over here. I don't even need to open this up to understand that whatever is going to be servicing the request are going to be services that are composed together by the dependency injection container. So where I would rather look is here, because I know that whatever functionality is going to be used here is actually going to be assembled here. And if I'm really struggling, yeah, I can open up middleware, like the authorization middleware, say, oh yeah, okay, it's going to be the authorization middleware internal or whatever this is, and effectively at some point we're going to see the invoke function and whatever services are surfaced here. So I can find out about the entry point this way, or if I know a particular name of a feature inside the sea of logic, like model binding within model view controller, I can just go straight to service registration, somewhere over here, look through the code line by line, and eventually stumble on something that is going to say model binding. Maybe something is going to say controller registration, controller marker, or something like that, which is going to say, these are controllers, let's load these controllers into the dependency injection container and figure out how to actually instantiate them. And please keep in mind that I'm able to do this exploration and gather all of this information without having to look at YouTube videos or search for any documentation or Stack Overflow questions. I can find out how the framework works by looking at the source code, which is readily available to you. And this will be it for this video. Hopefully you have enjoyed watching it and you've managed to realize that I can leverage dependency injection in order to figure out how the framework functions and then find places to stand in between functionalities or substitute functionalities or override functionalities to have whatever control I want over the framework. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. There is not much code in this video, so I'm not going to be sharing it, but if you would like to support my work and get the source code for all of my previous videos, please do so on Patreon. A big and special thank you goes out to all of my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate your support. Again, thank you for watching and have a good day.